washes out again. I got videos of neighbors, bumpers getting tore off their cars, my kids' cars getting tore up. I got a pickup truck, so I'm lucky, but everybody with the car is struggling. Every time this thing washes out, it takes months and years before they do anything about it. They just half-ass it, and then we're dealing with the same thing again. I want to pretty much piggyback on Mr. Tony with the whole flooding thing or whatever. These developers come in there and they do what they want to do. They get their shit built, they sell it, get their money, and then screw the little guy in the back. It's like we get shitted on, and nobody cares, and it goes on deaf ears, and I'm kind of tired of it. We got a beautiful piece of property over there, and the traffic, I mean, it takes, like I said, I think she touched base on it. It already takes 10, 15 minutes some mornings to get out of there when school's going on, or the hustle and bustle with people getting off of work or whatever. You go ahead and another 400 or 500 apartment complexes with however many people are living in each one of them with cars, and you're just destroying our little piece of heaven here. You know, you got a lot good going on with downtown Day City and the little businesses and the mom and pops, but then the rural areas, y'all let them come in there and tear up with, you know, the little piece we got. I just don't think it's right. So I just want to go on record stating that I'm in 13119 Mighty Lane, and I don't agree with none of it. So do whatever it is you're gonna do, but know that I'm totally against all of it. I don't think it's a good idea. And until somebody's willing to address the infrastructure, the sewage and the water and the overflow and traffic, and put some money into that instead of worrying about a house for somebody from New York to come down here and live in just because they want to escape the dump that they're at and shit on my beautiful piece of paradise. I don't think it's right.
Thank you, sir. So, were you next?
Yeah. My name is Clyde Singer. I live at 13183 Hobbs Road, at the very back. Well, about 45 years ago, my father-in-law and I dug that pit, took the sand off the top, took the clay out, went to all these little baseball fields around here in Dade City and Zephyr Hills, and we hauled it to Miami area and brought it back. That's what the business was all about. Now, we had a company come in there and dig it deeper than what we had dug it, and took more sand and clay out of there. Now, what Paul's talking about is there's a particular area on that property that was dug out. It started running a berm up around my property, which I put a hole on that immediately. I didn't want to be looking at no big pile of dirt out in my front yard, which it's downhill a little bit further now. Now, I know that there was a couple places that were dug out and were filled back in. I wasn't there. I don't know what was brought back in. So for me, I've got to be honest and agree with what the other people are saying. But I know that it was dug out and it was filled back in. It's a very big hole. It's my goodness, it's probably 600-700 feet across and probably 700 feet long. And I'll tell you what, laying down on the ground looking across it is probably about 80 feet down in the ground. And everybody always looks like, because I've always told them, oh, you look at the hole look like on the property. Well, I want to tell you what, the rain perks through, but it takes a considerable amount of time because it is clay. But it's also pretty emerald green when the water comes up on that red clay. But a lot of homes come in there. Homes on the very back side of this. There was nothing behind us. It was on orange groves. As a lot of the area in Pasco County was at the time. It's just been taken over. I have 3 huge watersheds, one right after another, that head on out to, I don't remember the name of that road. But anyway, they're huge. one day when the rains came, the big flood came, and it broke through the dam, and a lot of the clay and stuff rolled down my property and all over the place and made a big mess. I was supposed to get some help from that, but that's neither here nor there. It's gone, and the help was, well, I just want to have attention of what's going on here, how deep this hole is, how are we gonna put homes or anything in there? A lot of dirt's gonna happen. The pond on the property. The big hole in the back could be quite a fishing hole, to say the least. But I think in all fairness, there should be some core samples taken. Let's find out if this is true about all this stuff. And please, all of you, take a mindset. If this was in your backyard, you would want some answer confirmed. Let's find out. Thank you for your time.
Is there any other public comment at this time? All right, seeing none, would the applicant like a chance to rebut or offer further discussion?
Sure, I mean, I think I'll answer, I think there was three main points that were being made, and we have to answer all three of them. And they're applicable to the zoning and the land use amendment that are coming up as well after this, and probably a little bit more relevant to those issues. But as far as this particular property, it operates under an existing DEP permit. I think anyone that's familiar with DEP permitting, there's monitoring laws all over the property, there's zones of discharge. It's a heavily regulated site from the state. They do inspect, they do have plans that they have to operate in accordance with. I'm not familiar with all these, various allegations I'm hearing about illegal things being brought on the site. Obviously my client would deny that, but it's a DEP permitted site. It's a sand mine, it's not a clay mine, it's a sand mine. And eventually what will happen is the sand mine, like they do with a lot of the sand mines, like they did with Abbey Glen, is they'll reclaim, they'll go through the reclamation process, and as part of that, then they start to develop those into residential lots and stuff. It's been done many times. So from an engineering perspective, it can be done. I think water was the other question that came up. And this is actually at the bottom of the bowl. So all the water goes to this property. What they will have to do, and of course we're not at that point yet, because we don't know who will ultimately develop it, but they'll have to go to SwiftMud, they'll have to get permits from SwiftMud. Obviously, they're gonna have to figure out how to continue to retain water on that site, and of course with their SwiftMud permits if they get them. So they are at the bottom of the bowl, so whatever happens on this site, they can't flood anybody else. Unfortunately, that's, unfortunate for these people that they're having that experience from the people upstream, but that's not this property. Traffic, I think they asked the question about traffic. There's no issues with traffic. It has been studied. There was a traffic study that was submitted with all of the application packages that show that it will continue to operate at level C. I think the traffic was actually studied at a higher value even than the 450, which they think ultimately will be able to be found on the site. But I think that answers all the questions. Again, there's a DEP permit. There's monitoring wells. I think anybody that's familiar with mines and the landfills, they understand how heavily regulated these sites are. And if this site was contaminated or doing illegal dumps or whatever's being alleged, and contaminating sites, especially off property, it's let alone the zone of discharge on the actual site. If you start contaminating off-site properties, you're gonna have a lot of issues with DEP. So that's not, they've never been violated. They don't have a consent order, or there's nothing of that nature. So. But we're happy to answer any other questions on those issues.
Yeah, I have some questions. So first, because the contamination that was alleged was over the years, not necessarily in very recent years, however confident and substantial that allegation is, I'm sure that your client would deny it, but when did your client purchase the property? Are they a long-term owner? Have
Yes.
they purchased it very recently?
The sand mine's been operating for a while. My understanding is
That's
yes, they've
understood.
owned it. Yeah. So and it will operate as a
The
sand
current
mine.
owner is the owner,
Of the mine, yes.
that's been the owner for 20, this thing's been in operation like 20 years, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it's been there for a long
Longer than that.
time.
It's a grandfather permit is what it is.
Yeah.
His grandfather, it was his father-in-law who I bought it from, when Martin